Welcome to a special semi-live edition of Nerds and Hip Hop Podcast. This podcast is about the intersection of hip hop and nerd life. Blue Beetle, High Tech, Princess Tutu, and Lupe Fiasco are all fair game. And if you know any of these names, welcome.
There are four main parts. We first review our weeks in nerddom and hip-hopdom. Then we explore a theme through our hip-hop and nerd influences. At the end, we ask ourselves a question and open up to your questions.
And welcome to our official episode 7 of Nerds and Hip Hop, or 6. One of those two. We'll figure it out.
Could be 8.
Could be 8. We have like 3 episodes that have been lost to the ether, so we apologize to you.
Yes.
But as you can tell, there's no garbled Skype. We have a very special, live from Bethesda edition.
Yes, and if you're not sure where Bethesda is, we're not entirely sure either.
All I can tell you is it took 3 hours to get here from Baltimore City.
And we're 20 minutes from D.C.
Far enough.
But not the White House, D.C.
No.
Another part of D.C.
But let us get straight into it. Mm-hmm. So my week in nerddom has been me thoroughly gushing over Toradora. And for those who don't know this voice, I'm the Wolves Den, and I have my awesome co-host here,
Victoria, aka Miss Old School,
aka Sailor Scout.
Yay!
So one of those will be her reference. But yes, I've been gushing over Toradora. I finished it probably on Tuesday this week, and I think part of the obsession that I have with this story is the fact that I've never seen a main character so responsible. So for those who don't know anything about Toradora, Toradora is a romantic comedy that the opening premise of the show is that the guy and girl are obsessed with each other's friends. So Ryuji has a crush on Aisaka's friend Minorin, and Aisaka has a crush on his friend Kitamaru. So they both kind of make a deal to help each other
get to the other person.
Right. And throughout the first few episodes, you realize that Ryuji is everyone thinks that he looks like a delinquent in terms of his face, but he's pretty much the most responsible person that you could possibly be. He, particularly because of his mother's a single mother, so he does a lot of he does the chores. His first opening thing is him cleaning up mold and so he loves to clean. He cooks. One of the first episode, I think, he ends up cooking for both his mother and Aisaka, because Aisaka apparently can't cook to save her life. And so a lot of the stories deal with his interest in Minorin, but also him kind of starting to realize that he likes Aisaka and vice versa. So it makes a very interesting romantic comedy in terms of who does he end up with, why, and all of that. But part of what keeps happening is that there have been moments where he has a different approach to certain things than you would have expected. There's a point in time where one of the characters who get added to the show is this a model, and she stopped modeling, and part of the reason that she's interested in the character is that her entire existence as a model, as a high school model, is because she has to deal with the adult world. So she can speak like an adult, she thinks like an adult, she can do that. So being in a high school setting, most people just view her as this hyper mature person.
Right.
However, because he has seen aspects of who her character is, he's willing to call her a child still. And so she can't put up a front the way that to him.
As she does with others.
Right. And I think that's been interesting to watch. So he's able to he's daft in some things, but in certain things he's able to isolate things about people's character. And at one of the final parts of the show, I'm going to do this in the most generic sense so I don't spoil anything, is there's a decision that he was about to make that was going to be very brash and very excessive. And then the way that he was able to pivot that choice into not only being something helpful to himself, but helpful to his mother, was really fascinating. I can't think of many main characters, much as high school characters, really, who would have been able to make certain decisions under pressure and think about it. So I've loved I love this show a lot.
It sounds like a really diverse set of people coming
Yes. I was going to say, but it has the best cast I've ever seen in any anime. There are the 5 characters, the 3 girls and the 2 guys, and whoever any of them are interacting with from that group of 5, it's always a payoff. Mm-hmm. So I don't care if Isaka's going to interact with Ryuji, I don't care if Isaka's going to interact with Kitamaru, I don't care. As long as she's interacting with one of the 5, there's some both payoff in terms of like, oh, it's interesting to watch, but payoff in terms of like character development. And
so there's the model, there's the guy who can cook really well, and the girl who can't cook really well. Who are the other 2?
So the other 2 is the people that they both have crushes on. So it's his friend Kitamaru, who is kind of a student council vice president. And then you have Minorin, which is like the softball superstar / extremely happy-go-lucky person. She's kind of, how would I say it? She's like, I guess Sailor Venus on 10.
Wow.
In terms of like being kind of optimistic. Or maybe not. No, she's probably more not Sailor Venus. She's more Jupiter in that sense, I guess.
Okay. I can see that. Cool. That sounds interesting. It's like 24, 25 episodes?
Yes. It's been cool. But what about for you? You've been getting yourself lost in something too.
Yeah, I took on the very, very long anime One Piece. I got up until... I started watching it a few years ago, and I got up to about 174, which is when they're on Sky Island. A bunch of spoilers going to go on here, by the way, so if you haven't watched One Piece, or you're one of the few people like me who haven't caught up yet...
don't even try to catch up. Just accept the spoilers that comes with it.
No, you can do it. I'm going. I'm doing it. Hopefully. But finally, about a month and a half ago, I decided to take on One Piece again and see if I can get through it. Because apparently some crazy things happened after where I was, and so far it's been pretty much paying off. So now I'm around 474, which is...
Just pause. Consider the fact that she was at 175 about a month ago.
I've been like, what's it called? Pile driving? Like,
I just want to say, it's like, she has no life.
I have no life. This has been my life. My life is One Piece now. I speak in Luffy. Everything is suge and meat. Anyway. But one of the things that drew me to One Piece in the first place, it was Luffy. His main character, he's, like I said with the other characters, he's super, super optimistic, super, like, adventurous, and also just very, what's the word? There for his friends. And as you go more into the series, you see just as much as the extent that he's willing to go for his crew members, which has been really fascinating to me. But the thing I've been noticing is his character development, because at first, I wouldn't call him one-dimensional, but he's very much like, he is this, like, goal-focused, like... Single-minded, yeah. And you're starting to kind of see him develop into being, like, this captain and this leader, where before he's just super charismatic, so people follow him. But now he's kind of, like, making tough decisions and learning how to, like, deal with that, which is interesting for a character like him to me, because he's kind of like this Goku type, where he's just kind of aloof and kind of, like, going with the flow and just, like, loving, like, this adventure. So to see him having to be kind of serious at sometimes, it's been really cool. And then seeing him, so it's just going to be spoilers, losing people.
Right.
Not death, I will give you that. But, like, at one point, one of his crew members, Robin, she gets arrested by the Navy, and basically she gives herself to the Navy to save her crew members, and he goes to, like, the Navy, like, it's this, like, area where they, like, pretty much, like, put you into prison, called Ennis Lobby, and he goes all the way there to, like, get her, which is, like, unheard of. Like, it's never been breached before. And he does this time and time again, and it just shows you the extent of where he'll go. So that's been really interesting to watch him kind of transform into this, like, not new character, but, like, for them to delve into his character.
Does his optimism ever get tiring?
It's starting to. It's starting to, because now I'm at this point where Spoilers. I'm telling you, stop now.
Don't stop now. Just listen. Get over it.
Go ahead to another point.
Don't go mark it. Who cares about spoilers? This has been going on for like 10 years.
That's true. That's very true. I'm like 3 years behind still. Yeah, I don't even know what episode it's on now. I'm afraid to look. I think it's in like the 900s.
Okay.
So right now he's trying to save his brother Ace. Well, okay. And, where was I going with it?
You were telling me.
Oh, right. So, yeah, his optimism. So it's kind of the same thing with this crew member Robin, but except now it's Ace who's about to be executed. And this guy's like a really, really huge, like big pirate, whatever. So it's a big deal. He's one of the division leaders for the biggest pirate in the world, Whitebeard. So obviously, like, if the Navy's trying to execute him, the Whitebeard and his crew are going to come and like try and rescue him. So it's going to start this entire war between the Navy and Whitebeard, because Whitebeard's super strong. So the Navy's pulling like all of their super strong people, and it's going to be a clash, or it's clashing at the moment. But Luffy, it's kind of cool too, because even though he's a central character, he doesn't always win, and he's not always the strongest, which is also interesting. So he's like getting beat a lot this time around, because it's just like everyone's strong, like stronger than him. Like it's all different levels, but there's a lot of people who are stronger than him, or just have stronger powers than him. But he's still like persevering, trying to get it, which is admirable. But like, I think the most annoying thing is he keeps like, he'll scream his brother's name over and over again. He's like, Ace, Ace, I'm coming to save you, Ace. And it's like, all right, we get it, Luffy. I got it. But it's like, it's a little heart-wrenching at some points, but now it's starting to get like, I know what you're trying to do now. You don't have to keep saying it. But it might be different for me just because I'm watching them back to back to back. Whereas like before, it'd probably be like week to week or month to month or whenever One Piece episodes come out. Apparently no one knows. It's kind of like whenever they feel like putting out an episode, from what I've heard. So that's been kind of annoying. Like not so much the optimism, but like this kind of tenacity that he has, where it's admirable, but it's starting to get like, I get it. Just act. But, and he's just super stubborn.
Right.
Also. And it's kind of like he's
like somebody I know.
I am not. Not that you were talking about me, maybe. But yeah. But it's great because it's what makes him his character, but it's also starting to get like, all right, dude. But it's been nice seeing him grow. Right. In this arc that I'm in now, too, you're kind of seeing him, like I said before, making these tough decisions, learning how to, because there's like a guy, basically the guy who got his brother caught, he had a chance to fight him or go to save his brother, or like take his last chance, because he was, anyway. And this other guy basically convinced him, like, this isn't the fight you need to be in right now, like, we need to go save your brother. So he kind of had to break his one-track mind and be like, all right, I'm going to deal with that later and, like, go with what's more important. So he's been making a kind of those decisions a lot lately. Another big spoiler is his entire crew gets, like, disappears to different parts of the world because of this dude, like, sends him there. And so he's by himself now.
Okay.
More or less. All the crew's, like, spread out. And he chooses to go save his brother over than... the crew had like a meeting place they were supposed to go to before they got separated, so he was originally heading there, but then he heard about his brother, decided to go save his brother instead. So it's another like hard decision that he's making constantly. It's cool. I didn't think they were going to delve into his character more, like give him character growth, because he just seemed like, I'm like used to every other anime where characters kind of stay stagnant, like this is who they are more or less throughout the whole series. And this is also the longest anime I've ever watched, so maybe I have wrong. I mean, maybe Naruto's the same, and Bleach with Ichigo. But I haven't watched those, so I don't know. So it's been, I like it. I'm enjoying it.
So is it overtaking Sailor Moon?
Definitely not. So One Piece is my boyfriend's favorite anime. I'm pretty sure it is. And Sailor Moon is obviously mine, so if you've been listening to this podcast. And his goal is to make me love One Piece more than Sailor Moon. And adamant that is never, ever, ever going to happen. Sailor Moon will always hold a very special place in my heart, but happily, luckily, you've been watching Sailor Moon though, so what do you think about it?
Sailor Moon's interesting. I don't know what to do. So here's the story of the Sailor Moon thing that you've been trying to get me to watch. The first 7 episodes were torture. And so here's the thing. I was trying to debate which way I was going to watch Sailor Moon. I started watching the Japanese dub. I'm like, I can't rock with this. I can't rock with Usagi's voice. I can't do it. And then you were trying to convince me that no, I should watch the original dub. That was the worst.
The best. Whatever.
I wanted to drop it so hard. I was just like the Japanese one was torture, but this is.
We should run a poll with people.
Yeah, because the poll is going to be blinded by nostalgia. There's nobody who watched the original series could make an argument for the original dub. There's no defending that. Especially now that Viz has been redoing the dub and been putting it out slowly. And that's what I've been watching on Hulu.
But we do agree that Molly's voice is better in the original.
Because Molly sounds like she's from the Bronx.
Serena! Anyway, okay.
So, and I think part of the reason why I hated the beginning episodes was that that whole first kind of beginning, Usagi being by herself, transitioning to just her and Ami, all of that Nephrite saga was really stereotypical Power Rangers, Monster of the Week, and ultimately, as much as I love Ami, she and Usagi don't play off each other that great as I thought that they would.
I feel like they play off each other well when they're not transformed, but once they're transformed, it's not as great. But like as friends, I think they're great. I can see that.
I've been thinking about this because this is the first time when I started like really getting you on Facebook. I'm like, why am I watching this? Because what I thought was interesting is that I never, for the first 20 episodes, it feels like, even when we switch over to Jedi, which is amazing. This is when the series gets a lot more interesting. Is that why do we like Usagi? Like, that was the question that was bothering me, is that she's stubborn, she's lazy, she's selfish at times. Like, there are times, I forgot what episode where it feels like she was just using Ami and using Rei. I forgot what was going on. And I think it wasn't the doll episode, was it? With her brother?
Oh.
No, was it the doll? It was something around that no, it wasn't the doll. She was trying to sew together some dress.
Oh, the wedding dress.
Yes.
Right. She used her mom's curtains and stuff.
Right. But she was like, the moment in time where it's like, oh, she actually wants to hang out with Ami, it ends up like, could you just really do this for me, please? And I was just like, that just leaves a sour taste in my mouth. And he's like, you're not a good leader. You're not doing any, like, and for a while, I was just like, is she even a good friend? Because that was the question to me. Is like, all right, you're not a good leader. You're not good at doing any of this. Why do we make a series based on you?
I think that's what draws me and a lot of people to Sailor Moon, because she's such an not an anti-hero in the
traditional
word, but she's such a she doesn't do anything that your traditional leader hero should be and do. It partially makes her relatable, not the selfish and bad friend part, obviously, but as far as me, I am not a bad friend. The clumsy aspect, just the fact that even though she's lazy, clumsy, and a bad student, she's still. I don't want to say she has worth, because that's kind of messed up, but she's still this. She can be a prominent person. She can still do something. It's funny though that you mentioned the bad thing, because that was the other thing that drew me to Sailor Moon. I always thought she was a great friend.
Right, and I've grown to see that more now.
Right,
but in those first early episodes, it wasn't really clear. She butt heads all the time with Rei, which is both of their faults. Both of them are at fault for that. as I said, her and Ami feel like a weird friendship. And I'm starting to re-look at that as that she was kind of kind to Ami at the beginning. Mm-hmm. And we see her do that again when Jupiter's...
Oh, right.
Like, you see... And it's the first time I was like, okay, I kind of get it. Right. She'll throw her head out. But there are times where it's like, she used to treat Umino terribly.
Yeah.
So it's been weird watching her because it's like she's a weird friend. Like now, that part of the reason why I love the Jadeite arc so much is that the one person who she was clearly good friends to, like there's no question, was Molly.
Right.
And the actions that she took consistently through that arc of trying to either make Molly feel better, all of that was very deliberate. I was like, oh, okay. You probably are terrible around the Guardians, but
you have one good friend,
right?
You know, it is cool that, like you said, that she will like, even if someone else is like bullying someone or like standing away from someone, she's always like, "I'll be your friend." Like, I don't care.
Right.
But I think we talked about it too. Like when Nephlite, another spoiler, died, and Molly, you didn't really feel anything for that, or you weren't sure if Nephlite's feelings were genuine.
Right. Wait, wasn't it Jadeite who died, or am I mixing them up?
I think you might be mixing up. Nephlite.
Okay.
Nephlite died. The first guy, long brown hair.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was like one of my favorite things. Like,
that was another thing that made me realize, like, okay, there's a little bit more going on because of that relationship. Although I've had the conversation with you, a lot of the relationship stuff in this series is kind of sketchy, and I don't know how Crystal is kind of resolving those issues.
I don't know if it is.
If it is, but
well,
those relationships are kind of like creepy high school. I mean, you just have freshman in high school.
Throw like a Japanese anime lens over it or something.
Anime lens? No, you're not throwing.
I don't know, some kind of lens that makes it acceptable. This happened in the 90s before we thought any better or something.
No, there's probably a little bit better context, especially with the whole we're just reincarnated spirits for most of these people.
That's true too.
Which is a spoiler, but
yeah, I mean,
spoiler for a 1992 anime that was out before you were born.
Basically, or when you were born. There was something else I was going to bring up though. Was it not Nephlite? I don't remember. But anyway, go ahead.
So I've grown to appreciate what you said at first now, which is that part of the appeal of Sailor Moon is picking a character who doesn't have the stereotypical characteristics, and more importantly, to have a female character be she doesn't need to be a Mary Sue to be a leading character.
Right.
She doesn't need, like, I want to use your word worth because it's like she proves her. You don't need to be all of it. Like, you can be all of, like, not perfect and not all of that, but you can still be a leader. And I think part of what I started to appreciate is that you could tell Luna was kept on trying to push. It's like, no, she's going to grow up. She's going
to do this.
She's going to do this. Like, kicking and screaming, crying. She's going to
get there.
She's going to get there. However, I'm on episode 40. I wasn't able to finish full first season. And maybe you know the ending, and you know me, with spoilers, I don't mind. Yeah. But it doesn't seem that she's going to end up like, they're pushing her to be a princess now because of her past.
Right.
And at one point in time, I loved the idea that we said about, like, she doesn't need to be all these things to be a leader. However, it's kind of like, oh no, you are the chosen one.
Yeah, it is.
So it's like, you kind of do need to be this type of person with this latent talent to be a leader, and that kind of leaves a sour thing, and you need to be ladylike in a traditional sense.
Right.
And I was like, you just like undermined what felt like was half the appeal.
So I think it's kind of redoing kind of what the first thing did. Like, you know, you don't have to be like this perfect person to be a leader. It's also trying to go into, like, you don't have to be this, like, traditional ladylike person to be a princess. Is kind of what this part is showing us.
Okay, is that how it's going to end? Because it feels like
from what I remember, yes, because it's very much like you saw, like, with the episode where she like does the figure skating and does the class. Like, she fails at these things, but she's still a princess in the end.
Right.
And she's like, I think at one point she's like, I'm going to be my own kind of princess, basically. Right. The one thing that's interesting, though, is the difference. I did realize the difference between Princess Serenity and Usagi. They're very different sometimes. Like, even, more spoilers for you. They show her in the future, and she kind of, like, gets those characteristics again, like, where she's a lot more graceful and stuff like that. So I don't know how that changes, like, maturity, I guess. Right. In the manga, though, she kind of still holds a little bit more of her Serena Usagi-ness.
Okay.
In the anime, for some reason, she doesn't as much. So it's interesting. I like the difference, though. But I don't know.
I think what was neat is that this whole talk about princess being ladylike, it's still done a little bit subtly here. But part of the reason why I said yes to you convincing me to watch Sailor Moon was that either the second or third season is directed by Kunihiko Ikuhara, who does Revolutionary Girl Uteno. And the whole premise of that show is like a prince, a girl wanting to be a prince. So this kind of idea of like gender roles and booking that seems to be very significant, and you can start seeing a lot of seeds planted here between how the arcs are set up, where by the time Nephrite comes around, he starts turning random people into monsters. You start finally getting character vignettes of these people living their lives, and you start realizing that by the time that any other new main villain turns up, they play around with it. So it becomes stories now tied to the main character, which is why they should have done that from the beginning, because that makes better stories. But you realize all these traits become parts of his future animes, which is part of what I've done. But it...
No, that's interesting. I didn't draw that comparison until just now you mentioned that, because season 2 does kind of deal more with her being a princess as well. So it's interesting that he directed both, because they do kind of deal with the same kind of thing.
Right.
And
So that's why I'm curious to whenever you get to actually go around watching this. But why did you want me to watch this so much?
So I grew up with Sailor Moon. It means a lot to me. I think I just love sharing this, like, thing that I felt was magical girl series. But, like... yeah, exactly. It kind of just, like, it impacted me a lot growing up. And I'm not... I guess I wanted to see, like, you analyze things a lot, and you kind of come to things from a different perspective. So I was curious to see what you would get from it, and if you would get the same thing I got from it, and how kind of an outsider's perspective would see it. Because most people I talk to are already Sailor Moon fans, and we're talking about Sailor Moon, people who have grown up with it. I don't really get to talk to them. Most people aren't starting Sailor Moon now, at least not the original.
Right.
You're probably starting Crystal now. I think, though, I don't know, I guess I just wanted to share, like, you're, like, one of my best friends, so I want to, like, see what, you would get out of it.
Are you happy with what I've been getting out of it? Because there's a time where you were upset with some of the things I was saying. Now we're, like, more episodes in. Are you happy with the things I've been getting from it, or...
I like that, I'm happy that you like it better now. Even if we don't agree on the dubbing, I'm happy that you found one that you like. Yeah, I like, because you're kind of like the same thing. You're kind of like showing me the outsider's perspective, because I don't know how much I'm blinded by nostalgia. I don't think I am that much. But
if you can't hear, I'm giving her a death stare.
Whatever. So, like things when you point out, like, Usagi might be a bad friend. I'm like, I've never seen that. But then again, like, I watched this for the first time at a very young age, so a lot of those things might have gone over my head. And then going back, I obviously have, like, the nostalgia aspect. And then I've seen, like, the entire series, so I kind of remember her character in, like, a 5-season Usagi, not just, like, in parts. But, so I don't know. So it's I like that you're watching it. I'm hoping you continue till season 5.
What?
At least At least season 2, we've agreed, I think, that
we've agreed that. Because the dub is up there on Hulu for me to watch. Right. Anything after that, because Viz hasn't redubbed anything after R, so I can't guarantee you anything after R, especially because I'll be closing my Hulu account, and that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah, so we have to start writing letters to Viz. If you're reading this, write a letter to Viz and ask him to dub season 3 so Marcus can watch it.
Exactly. But I want you to start off with our week in hip hop because I think you got excited about something that Twitter was getting extremely excited about.
Yes. So President Obama put out a daytime list and a nighttime list of music that he listens to for the summer. And it was really curious to me because they were all the songs, and I probably shouldn't be this way. It felt so left field to me. I was just like, this is an interesting mix. I didn't know what to take from it, but I was impressed because a lot of the songs were songs that, I don't know, they're like either they're older songs and like songs I wouldn't expect. It's like you have to kind of be in the know to know them. Like, in order to name them, you have to know them.
I mean...
Well, not all of them, but...
Right, because that's what the stars like Beach Boys, Aretha Franklin, Prince, right. Nina Simone aren't really, like, going that deep.
No.
And like, they don't look like that deep into each of their discographies either.
No, but even, like, you have things like Love Hate Thing by Wale, Smooth Sailing by Leon Bridges, which isn't his biggest song, So Ambitious, Jay-Z and Pharrell... And the biggest thing to me was As We Enter with Nas and Damian Marley. Because I saw it, because I just started... I've heard a few songs before from their album, Distant Relatives.
Amazing album.
Amazing album. But I've kind of... I downloaded it about a month ago, and I've been kind of like getting into it a little bit more. And As We Enter is like one of the best songs ever. So it was really a shock to me to see it on this list because I'm like, how? Like, what? Like, how did this get on Obama's playlist? Like, how did it? I mean, it's a great song, but it's just like one of those, it's super underrated. It's another thing, like, you have to be in the know to know it. So I'm wondering, like, how did he get in the know? Like, what intern told him about this? Or how did he come across it? I want to know that story.
I'm assuming he's like, what? There have only been, 4 official Damian Marley projects, official ones. There is Mr. Marley. Mm-hmm. There is Halfway Tree, Welcome to Jamrock, Distant Relatives. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, there's only a few albums to pick from, and most people aren't listening to the first 2 albums that much. You only really have the last 2.
But even to get into Damian Marley, I feel...
That's not He's not that underrated.
Don't think so?
I wasn't here when Jamrock came out in the States, but wasn't that like a huge thing?
I guess that was a big thing, yeah. I don't know.
I don't know how much people like the Distant Relatives project. I love it.
I love it too, yeah.
But I don't think... It is a Nas, Damian Marley thing. Those names aren't that hidden.
No. I don't know.
I'm more surprised by the track choice than I am that it's a Nas.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think that he could have probably picked a lot of other joints on that album that would have made more sense. I'm thinking of, there's a track where, Leaders. He could have easily picked that, and that would have been like very context relevant to who he is. He could have picked the joint about the family. I forgot what's the name of that joint. He could have even picked Patience, which is the one that most people who've listened to the album will tell you is the best song on the album. He chose the more rapidy rap track. Right. That's the piece that surprised me. Like, he could have easily chosen anything, but I would have probably been like, oh yeah, that song has...
That makes sense. Yeah.
But it's like, he chose As We Enter, which is literally just them going bar for bar.
Right. Despair, that's the one I was thinking about. Would have been a good choice, too. Right. Or a choice that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, As We Enter was just like, I want to get on Obama's iPod. Like, what is he, like, what is he doing? The other thing that surprised me, too, is on his nighttime playlist, he had Say Yes by Floetry, which is, like, another kind of, like, not really, like, underrated, but, like, you have to be in the know.
Do you? I mean, Say Yes is like the Floetry song.
It is, but how many people do you know Floetry?
I would have to think of my friends. A lot of them, if they listen to R&B. Like, I feel like if you listen to R&B, you know Floetry.
That's true. Maybe I just don't have a lot of friends who listen to R&B. Maybe. But yeah, so those two songs, just like, I don't know. And then I'll Be There For You, You're All I Need, Mary J. Blige, Method Man. Another, like, kind of rappity rap song.
Right. Or even Acid Rain. That's even...
Right. It's just like, what? Like, I don't get what's going on. Like, I don't know. And like, these lists are obviously, like, curated and, like, tested or whatever. But I don't know, it's just really, really interesting.
How long do you think it took him to make this list?
I don't know. Probably some weeks. I'd say weeks.
Weeks?
Yeah.
You don't think it was just like, intern, just go through my iPod and just work on it?
Maybe. I don't know. Well, maybe to come up with the list. No, because I feel like there was probably a lot of back and forth. Just because, well, I don't know, because this seems like...
It really looks like they just went through his iPod.
They might have, because there's a lot of songs in here I could see where he could get backlash for, and he just was like... Yeah.
I'm leaving it in 8 months.
Right, just deal with it. I know there's a line somewhere, and I'll be there for you. You're all I need. With Method Man, he said something kind of crass. I forgot what it is. And so I don't know. I'm trying to think. There's something else too. I don't know. But yeah, it's very interesting. I don't know. It was shocking.
So, have you played any of those playlists straight through yet?
I haven't. I did tweet that I wanted one, and one of the White House Twitter tweeted me the Spotify playlist, so I was really excited about that.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm going to delve into that, because there's a few songs on here I've never heard of. I'm curious to see if they have the Prince song on the playlist too, because Prince's catalog isn't on Spotify, so I'm like, I wonder if they were able to maneuver.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm. So, we'll see. Or maybe it is now. I don't think it still is. And do they have Tidal and Apple playlists too? That's another curious thing.
Maybe what does the president use streaming for?
Right? And will it be favoritism if he's using one over the other? Does he not like Jay-Z? These are the questions we need answers to.
Yeah, I mean,
this is why we do this.
Forget elections. Forget elections.
So Bobby use Spotify or Tidal.
In fact, that's what we should like. We need to find out what Trump uses and what Hillary uses, and that will be.
Yeah.
That should be the final choice. Like whichever they use, you make your final choice.
I'm trying to figure out which one would be the most unfavorable one.
The answer is any of them. The only right answer is buying CDs.
I disagree.
Yeah. Of course you would. But I'll talk about my week in hip hop and stuff. I was been listening a lot to the Swoop Wake Up album. And I listened to an interview that he did with this group called Bear Fruit. And it was just a very, very transparent, very vulnerable interview. I've never experienced an interview that really got at the artist's heart, his mentality, and an artist kind of apologizing for an album in a way that I never thought of before. And apologizing not because like, oh, the album was terrible. There's an album, so his debut album is Wake Up, and then he made another album called Cinema. And I haven't listened to Cinema yet, but part of what he was talking about with that album was feeling the pressure to make a certain type of music and cater to a certain fan when he realizes him, like Kanye, have the same problem, where standards are a little bit higher than they would be normally. So he realizes that he and Kanye are raised to a very similar level, and I say that in, like, they're not literally the same, but he was talking about that he needs to, sort of like how we sometimes complain about Kanye following trends, so he's not really allowed to because of the body of work that he put out.
Right.
The interview, he was talking about that for the way that a lot of people see his first debut album, Cinema was a disappointment because he ended up following certain trends. So I've never heard Wake Up before. I've heard Swoop before on and off throughout the years. So I wanted to see what that was like. And as much, the album is pretty interesting. And I think I think it's probably one of the best sequenced albums I've experienced. And the sequencing almost got me into trouble at church.
Yeah. Please tell. How did this happen?
Part of Wake Up is dealing with Swoop trying to wake up people from kind of the dreamlike experience that they have of real life, where they think that their actions, there are no consequences for their actions. People are essentially sleeping on God's existence. And he uses a lot of he came out in 2012, so he's using a lot of like the Christopher Nolan imagery in Inception, like life is a dream. When you need to wake up and get out of that type of thing. It's very well sequenced. So the first song talks about ideality. People don't live in reality. They live in an ideal version of their life. Right. I mean, he talks about fantasy, where people are living their life as a fantasy, but for him, he was doing that too until Jesus became his future fantasy of how he wanted to live life. And the album is just very sequenced and trying to make its point. And right after that song, there's a song called Dream Slaves. And Dream Slaves starts off with him speaking as a person who is still asleep, so to speak. And so it makes sense sequence-wise. You talk about people living in this experience. You talk about how you've changed. And now you're going to talk about you give us more of a description of how people are thinking in this particular way. So it makes sense album-wise. And then he's going to push it to go later, where he reanalyzes that and talks about people realizing they're not really getting what they want anyways. So you might as well wake up, because you're not really getting what you want. So it's sequence properly, tracking is there, but I listened to the album one time before, and I thought church was ending, and at times we can play stuff. I usually play Christian hip hop. Right. So I played Ideality, I played Fantasy, and I was listening to Dream Slaves. I'm like, if you don't have the context, and most people aren't really listening to the lyrics that much. I was like, if you don't have the context, you're like, why is this person playing this music that sounds like they're trying to live life about God? I was like, yeah, I'm going to turn this off slowly before anyone realizes.
Did anyone realize?
So one person realized, but she got mad at me because I stopped playing the album. She knew the album, and she was like, "Why didn't you play it?" I was like, "You realize I wanted to catch the issue before anybody else in terms of if they weren't paying attention to the songs around it, you may think like, oh, he's just playing some random rap song." Right. So I wanted to catch that, and she was like, "No, you don't have to worry about that." About a month later, I played a different song, which was dealing with a similar type of issue. And then I got stares at from the pastor and everybody. It's like, what are you doing? I'm like, this is
listen, I promise.
Right. It's like, the context changes immediately. You just need to be patient with the song. Right. So I realized I got stared at. But what I thought was great about the album, as much as I don't love all of it, it talks about waking up to the ills and so forth. And there's part of the album that was great where he's been convincing you to wake up, to change your perspective. And then he has a song called Lullaby, where he talks about the pleasures of sleep.
I like that.
Right, because he spends this entire time where you're like, he has a talk about like how hard this walk is, all of that. And then there's a song called Lullaby where he's like, it's almost as if don't get it twisted.
I still love
there's in this walk and in waking up, there is rest to be had. Okay. And I was like, that's a cool pivot on the album, because it's like this entire... he talked about people who were like, all they want to do is go to work, go play, no time for rest. Mm-hmm. And he was like, no, part of the blessing of waking up is getting rest that's almost divine-like rest. Right. And I was like, that's neat. Yeah. Because it plays around with the album concept and so forth.
I thought it was going in another direction when he said that. I thought he was saying that he does his walk of life, but he knows that, like, more or less, life within is more, quote unquote, more enjoyable. Mm. Like, I know, like, sleeping, like, not waking up is, like, makes you feel good. Like, all these things, like, if you're not woken up, right. Not woke, quote unquote. Yeah, sorry for using that.
No, I find it funny, but it's like, he could have only made this album 4 years ago. The concept of Wade woke up is just too much in a particular place now that you can't use it. Right. It wouldn't rock the same way.
It wouldn't. But it might have been more popular.
That's a good question.
It might have more quotables. But yeah, so I thought that's what I was going with. But I kind of like that better because it's stronger and it's nicer.
Yeah.
It's a different aspect. It's kind of like, yeah, you can do all, like, walk in this life and still, like, there's rest. Like you said, there's you can still chill. You can still, like, calm down every so often and, like, sleep and enjoy yourself. Or more or less, sort of.
Yeah, so that's what's my that. But we...
Yeah. But yeah, speaking of Christian hip-hop, I feel like now is probably the best time to be a Christian hip-hop fan. Which is a weird thing, because for a while, I had many doubts about Christian hip-hop. But we've both been listening to another Christian hip-hop artist, Jackie Hill Perry.
Yeah.
Who is super, super, super dope.
Doper than I could have imagined.
Yes, absolutely. With her album, The Art of Joy.
Which came out in 2014. It's been a long time, actually. I felt like it came out last year, but...
I thought it came out earlier this year.
So, just to kind of give you guys context, I wanted to talk about this album, particularly because you kind of said one piece, is that it's not just, like, great time to be a Christian hip-hop fan, in one sense, but it's, like, issues of, like, religion and so forth is at the forefront of, like, mainstream hip-hop now. That there is almost a bigger space for, like, Christian hip-hop artists to be there. Like, we see Lecrae charting that path, and he's taking a lot of artists, quote-unquote, with him to a mainstream audience.
Not only that, I mean, Christianity has kind of become a more thing for, I don't want to say mainstream artists, but you have Kanye and Chance, more or less, in their own way.
Right, that's why I think it's a great place, like, for the art, for this conversation to be happening.
Definitely.
For, like, people to learn about different artists and because the topic's at the forefront. I mean, even Kendrick, to a certain extent, has that a part of his lyrics. Chance this year with Blessings and all. Like, it seems something that people are going to be talking about for a while as they figure out what faith means to them.
Which is interesting, because you would think that would have happened after Kanye did Jesus Walks. But it's been, like, years.
It's been years. I think part of the reason why that didn't happen, and I want to shout out Derek, because Derek Arrow, he's from WCCR. We had a conversation way back about Kanye, and I think this was one of the most eye-opening conversations, is that part of the reason why Kanye was able to be popular when he came out was that he said, I didn't understand it at that point entirely because I hadn't fully listened, but he's like, Kanye is like Tribe in one sense that I never thought of, which is that he'll do all this conscious talk and this thinking, but he's still going to give you songs that seem not party-ish, but it's like he'll still give you a song that's almost Bonita Applebum. Like, he'll still give you kind of like, I'm going to kind of semi-mac on this girl type of thing. So he's like, he's only gone so far
into consciousness.
Into consciousness was like, in my case, like, he's only gone so far into talking about religion. Because on the same album, he'll give you Jesus Walks, he'll give you Breathe In, Breathe Out. And I think that's part of what makes him very interesting, but I think that's part of why we never really got that talk to really be as big as it could have been during that era.
I can see that, yeah. It just kind of didn't catch on because it's like, oh, he just made a catchy song and this was just happened to be the topic.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense. Yes, anyway, back to Jackie.
Yes. So, yeah, there's a lot of reasons why we chose this album, but the more important reason why we chose this album is because it's incredible.
Yeah, well, also because she was featured on Motivations 3, right?
Misconceptions 3.
Misconceptions 3.
Right.
And she is, like, just wowed me with her verse, like, completely, or you could say, like, she was the Nicki Minaj of Monster, even though you don't agree with Nicki Minaj had the best verse of Monster, but she definitely had the best verse on Misconceptions 3.
Arguable, but...
Okay. So, that's what made me want to delve into her more, and I think you just found her to be dope in general.
Yeah. So what did you think of the project? What are some of the things that came out when you actually spent more time with it?
So the first thing that stuck out to me, because, you know, it's one thing to be a great rapper, but I was really shocked by the production. But Humble Beast, from what I've heard so far, it's Humble Beast, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Not Humble Bundle. Their production is pretty good, so I don't know why I wasn't expecting, like, I was like, okay, let's see how this sounds. But I was just completely wow. Like, the first one is almost Kanye-esque, the argument.
You think so?
Almost. Like, I don't know, maybe because I think it had, like, strings in there or something.
Okay.
It was just sounded very grand, and I was thinking, like, grand Kanye. Then after that, it kind of, like, toned down and had, like, a bunch of different, like, sounds to it. But just, like, bars on bars on bars. It's just, like, another, like, great addition to it. I'm trying to remember, I think I liked Educated Fool the best.
Educated Fool is dope.
Yeah.
And I think, so, for those who have a little bit more context, I'm not guaranteeing that they produce all the album, but Humble Beast, the producers are usually Braille and Odd Thomas. They're kind of the heads of the record label. They've rapped before too, and they've switched their sound when they started doing what they call Beautiful Eulogy. Oh. And part of what I was not afraid of with this album, but they have a very distinctive sound. And you could hear it when you hear songs like Better, where percussion is not traditional. Like, they won't necessarily give you your boom bap drums.
Right.
They'll give you a lot of pianos, keys, and it'll sound beautiful, but they're willing to play around with percussion a lot. And at times it works for me, at times it doesn't. Throughout this project, and part of the reason why I'm surprised with Educated Fool is that's the closest to a boom bap track you're getting on this entire project. That
might be why I really liked it.
And you're getting, like, dope scratches, mm-hmm. You're getting that, and it's a cool idea, given the entire project. Is like, it's a cool thing of talking about that people will try to find solace in wisdom that's not really there.
Right. Woke. Cool. The other thing I want to point out, just a side note, the album name is pretty dope. I think we were talking about album names before, and just right. Like The Art of Joy is a great album name.
It is, and I think part of the reason why I think it works is that, just like when I was talking about Soup, mm-hmm. the sequencing here and very deliberate. Like, this is a short album, roughly. It's 11 tracks, yeah. And they're very clear of what it's like. They went in and was like, we're gonna communicate this idea of essentially reinforcing that you're not really satisfied. Like, that's the first half of this project, consistently saying that you really aren't that happy. Like, right. You really aren't that happy, and then it all supposed to works towards the end, where the final track is Art of Joy, about we are only finding satisfaction if we're finding satisfaction with God. And it's like, that's a cool hook. And it's like, we'll talk about that the education won't really get you there. We'll talk about fear will drag you down. We'll talk about the actual, like, living in the projects, and those issues will drag you down. The song that she did with Eshon Burgundy. So she'll flush it out in such a detailed manner. She'll even talk about, I think this song surprised me, I think it's called Dead Preacher.
Dead Preacher.
Where she talks about a preacher who was pretty much trying to pimp the congregation.
Right.
But that story ends with him becoming so convicted by God that he's lying prostrated listening, and he's like, I won't do that again.
Right.
And I was like, it's constantly trying to communicate that. The only song that actually doesn't feel like it fits traditionally is a song that I want to really hear your thought about, which is the Ode to Lauren.
I was just going to mention that, because I was looking at the thing and I'm just like, how did I miss that? How did I forget to mention that? Because obviously I love Lauryn Hill.
Right.
I can see why you say it doesn't fit, though, because traditionally, because she's kind of going through these themes of, like, thing. But I think, Lauryn Hill's such an interesting figure too regarding Christianity, because she kind of, like, has kind of delved in it. Like, she has Zion, and he has, like, all these things which she mentions it. But it's kind of like where you're like, people think she's, like, lost her way, whatnot. So I think it was a really cool way to address, like, who Lauren is and, like, what she's done and kind of thing. But I don't know, I liked it.
I love the song. Yeah. I think the song is great. I just think that on first listen or so, it's like, this is great, but it's like, how does it fit? Mm-hmm. But I listened to the last verse again, where she is asking, like, essentially she's asking Lauren, where's she finding her joy? Because the story takes a detour towards, like, it starts off with her being impacted by Lauren's music, and then the shift that most people talk about with Lauren in terms of how she started presenting herself, how she's showing up in public, all of that, and then she's now like, it's almost as if she's like, your music did so much for me, what's going on with you? And it's it's a different perspective. It's not, like, you can tell that she was a big fan, but it sounds so sincere in how much that she cares about Lauren the person.
Yeah. I was going to say that too, because that's another thing I think a lot of fans, it's kind of like the Frank Ocean thing, where like we love her so much, but also we like kind of box her in, and we also kind of, we don't really care about her as a person, we care about her as the artist. Like, what are you giving me? Where's my music?
The Mary J. Blige issue.
Right. Like, yeah, you have to be,
for
don't have a terrible life so I can enjoy your music. And I think that was a really cool thing too, because like as Christians, we probably should be, we should be more invested in, you know, if people are happy, are they, you know, being fulfilled. So it was a cool thing too, like another perspective of a fan who like truly understands, like, or not truly understands, but like cares about Lauren.
Right. And I think as she creates art, she thinks of probably sees issues that Lauren goes through, and she might see that for herself, of like what would be, how does she get by herself in a certain sense. Even the song, either before or after that, which is Better, God was like talking about like, you are bettering me. What is it called?
Get There or Suffering Servant?
It could, I think it's Get There, where it talks about God molding her, and she talks about the right after her wedding, like a week or so afterwards, she finds out that she's pregnant.
Oh, right.
And being kind of like, wait, what? I just got married. Like, I have my future ahead of me.
Nope. Well, future with the child.
Right.
That's as much.
Right. And she was like, okay, this journey I'm going to go on is supposed to be not just me. Right. And I think when she thinks about that feels like a good segue into thinking about Lauren.
I was just going to mention that. I didn't get that at first, because it is, like I mentioned before, like Zion, it is very much like people telling Lauren like not to have this child, and she goes and has it anyway. She, again, to get there, she kind of does the opposite, where like she wasn't planning this, and then it happens, and she has to kind of deal with the consequences. Other thing I was going to mention too, Lauren. Well, yeah, never mind. I was just going to say like for an example, for her, when she came out, when she said, like, she gave a reason for why she's always tardy to her concerts, and she was saying that she kind of has to get in this mindset and this artistic thing. And I'm probably one of the few people in the world, maybe the only one, and my other friend Janae, shout out to Janae, who understood it. I was just like, I could see that. Like, you know, you want to be in the right space and aura to give, like, your best performance, obviously. Like, you know, not everyone has an on switch, but when you have to be somewhere at an 8, you probably, you know, you kind of have to deal with it. But yeah, I got it. But I saw, like, the ridicule she got for it, and, like, even, like, just people, like, making fun of it. Like, yeah, that's what I'm going to tell my job when I come. Like, I have to.
It's tough. It like, is. That piece is tough, because when other people are paying their money, there's a lot more at stake. Right. And not even just, like, time. Like, you know, you might be planning. Do something afterwards or beforehand. But I'm super biased because I love Lauren, and the concert I went to was great, so. Yeah. Is there anything? I will say this. I don't know, like, as dope as Jackie was throughout, and as dope as most of her lyrics were, like, I still want to spend more time there. Like, flows that she had here were, like.
Yeah, she switches up a few times, which is pretty cool.
Right. I still don't know if she had the best verse, though. I think my favorite song is Better with Jay Gibbons. And that Jay Gibbons verse is...
You have to go back to it.
That every time I listen to how he opens that...
He does open it, yeah.
In terms of, like... essentially talking about imagining sheep to go to sleep, and talks about God caring for his sheep, and then describing his sheep as ADD, and, like... The detail that he goes through. Like, I think part of me talking about we wanted to officially do this like a Humble Beast episode, but we didn't have time to listen to everything.
And we're just gushing over Jackie Hill Perry at the moment.
Right. But part of the reason why I wanted to do that is that I wanted to get a better understanding of the roster, because I felt, for me, Jay Givens, although he's no longer in Humble Beast as of this year, he has the potential to write multiple classic albums in terms of the way that he writes, and is very vivid in his imagery and very thoughtful. And I wasn't sure if anybody else, when I finally sit down and went through Humble Beast, would be able to be as incredible as to me as he was. Listen to Jackie Hill was like, it's clear, but I was like, not wrong, but it's like, they've got more than enough. Like, him leaving doesn't change. Right. They're perfectly fine.
I also think, I don't know, I haven't heard the new guy you said they just signed.
Sho Baraka, yeah.
Sho Baraka. But I feel like she could probably be their breakout rapper from the label. But
I think when you look at Misconceptions 3, I think part of the reason why Lecrae chose those 3 people is that I think those 3 people have the most ability to break out individually.
Absolutely.
It's John Gibbs, who I think has probably the most star power. We've never talked about his music before. I think you and I will do that next. There is Jackie Hill, which we've just done, and then Jay Givens, who I've just kind of gushed about.
Yes. Yeah, so I think she definitely has breakout material. I'm excited.
So
now that we've gone through all that, we've had very, very long weeks. We can get to our theme of the week, or this episode at least, which is motivations and intentions.
Right. So just to kind of give a context, when we talk about motivations, it's as big as it can be. It talks about it could be a character motivation, it could be an artist motivation, or being very intentional about how you're going to be watching something, or intentional about the way that you're going to try to perceive something, or ways that you thought the artist was being intentional. So it's very dynamic in that. And I thought, when we think about motivations, intentions, and nerddom, the first thing that came to my mind was Metroid Prime, which is a video game from GameCube way back. And I remember hearing the soundtrack while I was visiting going to a rental store. And it was so uneasy. Like, everyone wanted to rent the video game. I was like, this is too creepy. I didn't want to play it at the time.
Right.
And I played the game eventually, and it's really incredible how they want you to feel uncomfortable on the planet. Like, the idea of Metroid Prime is that you're this alien bounty hunter who gets pretty much a SOS call to this pretty much abandoned planet, except for creatures that are there, and you feel as an invader. Like, your presence is hostile. And part of that really is the music convincing you of that. It's unnerving. I really remember the first time I heard the soundtrack from that video game store. I even just remember like that opening screen where you see like what looks like virus, atomic views of a virus, and you just have this weird soundtrack going on in the background. And a lot of the soundtrack is very inclined to give you that feeling. I thought it was very intentional of them to bring this whole isolation feeling and make you feel like an outsider through music. And I thought that was very thoughtful.
It's funny, I remember feeling that same way when I played Halo.
Really?
For some reason. Because at some point, that's what actually made me stop doing it, because it creeped me out. Because after, there's like, first you're with like a squadron, and then they, you have to separate and like go off on your own and like fight aliens. And I was just like, no, I don't want to be by myself. I'm good. Not so much in music, but just like this kind of like, I'm by myself. I have to kind of fend for myself now. I can't depend on the computer characters. But yeah, anyway, I just remembered that. I just throw that in.
And what comes to you, man, when you were thinking about motivations and intentions?
So, like as I mentioned before, I've been watching a lot of One Piece. I've been watching all One Piece. So the first thing that came to mind was One Piece and Gurren Lagann, which is another one of my favorite animes, because both of the main characters are somewhat similar. Like, you have Luffy and Simone, who are both very goal-driven. I don't know if I'd say single-minded for Simone.
Right, I was about to say, I don't see that.
But they are very much like, I'm going to do this, and once I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. At least Simone later on, not in the beginning.
Okay, yeah. I was like, the early Simone doesn't feel that way.
No, another spoiler, after Kamina dies, obviously, he kind of becomes very much more, like, he believes in himself, and he, like...
Believe in the me that believes in you!
Woo! Yeah, exactly. So, that was the first thing. I think they are probably the most motivated, like, characters I've encountered in anime. Whereas, like, they'll go literally to the ends of the earth and outside of the universe to, like, do what they want to do, or, like, whatever it is, get the girl, or, save a crew member. So super admirable for both of those characters. I don't know if I could say anything for what the creators, like, meant to do that. I mean, obviously they created the characters, so that's how they made them, but I don't know what their intentional things were there. But I do think I've also read the first issue of Squirrel Girl, finally, and that feels a little more intentional on Marvel's part to me.
Okay.
Because, obviously, like, the movies have been coming out, people are becoming more into the Avengers and kind of like this main group of people, and kind of don't know about all these other, like, hundreds of side characters that Marvel has, including Squirrel Girl. So it's kind of cool because the cover of it is basically Squirrel Girl. She's, like, dreaming up. There's, like, a little dream bubble by her, and she sees herself, like, all the Avengers, like, holding her up, like, lifting her up, like, pushing her up, and, like, kind of celebrating because she, like, saved the day. But obviously this is just, like, a dream of hers, because, I mean, she's powerful. She's super powerful, but she's not Iron Man. She's not Thor. So I think it was cool on Marvel's part to show, because she's still, like, fighting bad guys, even though they're, like, on a smaller level, even though apparently she's defeated Dr. Doom. I just have to look this up. So it's like, even though the Avengers are probably fighting these galactic battles, there's still, like, these little things going on, like someone getting robbed or stuff like that, like, she can handle. So it's still, like, she's saving the day and she's helping your day-to-day people. More, I guess, if you're, like, Jessica Jones and Luke Cage. Except even that, like, Jessica Jones and Luke Cage are probably not more powerful than her, but seemingly more powerful at first glance. But she's like, oh, you have powers of a squirrel, like... like, even her power is kind of like, what's it called? Not frivolous, but you're kind of like, you wouldn't take it seriously, even though it probably should be taken seriously. But when you see, like, Luke Cage, it's like, oh, he's unbreakable skin, or, Jessica Jones, he has, like, super strength and, like, all this other stuff. But it's like Squirrel Girl. So it kind of works for her character in the comic and then outside as well.
Okay.
Which I think might be part of Marvel's thing.
I think so. They're always trying to find... I think they're trying to find a space for everybody and try to create, like, a scale of the ultimate characters in terms of, like, a Blue Marvel, and these guys will be handling, like, galactic issues.
Right.
The next set of threats are, like, Avenger issues.
Right.
Then you start going slowly down to, like, street level.
Exactly.
Very street level. Like, you just work all
this corner. So I think, so it's just been really cool. I think and she's a really cool character as well. Just seeing, she's also a little bit more relatable, I think, because she's a college student. Well, she's just starting as a freshman. I actually heard this on a recommendation of a guy who said his daughter liked it, and she was about 16. So I can see why, like, someone probably just getting into Marvel Comics, someone, like, probably sees the movies now and, like, once again, comic books, could, like, get into this comic and enjoy it. So it's also a good, like, introduction to kind of comic books if you're, like, just young and getting started as well. So yeah, so it's been fun. It's a fun comic. So how about hip hop? What have you?
So the person that embodies, like, being motivated to me in hip hop more than anybody is Phonte, and because Phonte has these very interesting ways of describing his motivation, like what keeps him going. So he talked on a song called "See You Later" that he did with Sean Bug and Crisis. He talks about he was doing well in North Carolina, but he's like doing well in North Carolina at a time where it's like being a C student around a bunch of people who are flunking.
Wow.
And people are like, "Oh yeah, you're doing good." It's like, no, I have bigger dreams. I have bigger things.
I haven't been to New York.
Right, and he actually says that in a nice line. He's like, I'm doing all of this while people are at Baseline, the recording studio, like doing amazing things. Like I got bigger things to be working. And he's like, that's why I was like, I'm going to be like working my tail off.
Wait, when did that come out? I'm curious.
See You Later, I think it's 2011. It's off the Stars and Stripes album.
Because I'm wondering, because that's before like Rhapsody and Ninth Wonder and kind of this whole.
Would it have been? I mean, Rhapsody started in 2009, didn't she?
Did she? Oh yeah, that's when Game came out. Or was
that's what I'm wondering. Or Return of the B-Girl.
Return of the B-Girl might have came out.
Yeah, no, 2011.
Yeah.
Because
I know they've been kind of like putting on for North Carolina. So
right. No, that's what I'm saying. This is because he came first from North Carolina. It's the idea of like when he was doing it. Mm-hmm. North Carolina wasn't doing anything major in hip hop. Mm-hmm. Obviously, now post Fonte, post Lil Brother, people like her, people like J. Cole now.
Oh yeah, J. Cole. Let's separate those. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So I always think that's interesting, and he talks about that on the Becoming, which is the beginning of the Minstrel Show album. It's like, he's talking to his wife. He's like, I'd rather just stay home with you right now, but I gotta wake up now because people are listening now, and I better have something to say to them. Which is a pun on his last album being listening.
That's good.
But it's like, people are listening now, I better have something to say to them. So, and then I think it's on Dreams, he talks about that there's not much that really separates him from all the other people in North Carolina who aren't doing well. I think, on Dreams he talks about people listening to the Minstrel Show album and they felt like, are you taking shots at us, his friend? And give him that very satirical look he is looking at hip-hop with and people. And it's like, are you taking a shot at us? It's like, yeah, he pretty much says yes and no. But it's like, but he was like, more so it's like, if I wasn't raised as bold, I would probably be you. Mm-hmm. And that feels very like, look, I may have taken a shot at you, whatever. It was like, ultimately, let's be very clear. It's almost as if I, out of no work of my own, was I able to get here. Right. And it's like being motivated, knowing that like I can tell that's a thing. It's like there's not much separating me and these people. And given so the motivation to keep going after the dreams, in spite of when he wrote that, he would have just got dropped off the label, all of that. So I think the realization of your context and realizing you're not where you are feels very motivating for him. And I think that's why I was like, that's the most motivated person I can think of.
Interesting. For me, I immediately thought of Nas, specifically Hip Hop is Dead, because it seemed, it was a weird time in 2006.
2006.
Because he kind of had, Soulja Boy was at his prime, if you can believe that. Kind of like the Franchise Boys. That era, so it was very much of this disdain for where hip hop was.
What a time to be alive!
It was an interesting time, but you also had like your Kanye at his prime and your Lupe at his prime. But I think those kind of came out similar area. So, but Nas obviously was hearing a lot more of the more quote unquote garbage music that was coming out, and he wanted to make a statement about it, and it felt very intentional to me. Like he was kind of motivated to change it, I think, because along with Hip Hop is Dead, he came out with the "Where Are They Now" songs, which featured a bunch of like old school hip hop artists, and like here I am, I'm still here, I'm still like rapping, I'm still like putting on for the culture, more or less.
There's another song he has on that project that most people hate, which was also talking about like historical hip hop artists. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head.
I don't know, but even like he's like, I'll go to the radio station and bust, whatever. Go to every station. Man, I forgot the line. I can't believe I forgot it. But anyway, wreck the DJ.
Right.
Yeah, so it's very, very much intentional. I thought of just like, we need to fix this. Hip hop is dying, or it's dead. Like, this sucks, like, we need to, like, start from scratch, basically. Like, it's dead, let's start over.
But But do you think? So I have a lot of questions to ask this album. I'm going to make it very simple in terms of like, do you really think he knew what the ramifications of him putting out this album were really going to like? Did he like? I think he had intention, like he wanted to make a statement, but was he intentional to predict the outcome of him doing such a thing? Is one, and do you really think it made any actual impact?
I don't know about impact. Well, it's hard to say because. Obviously, like I think the landscape of hip hop now is much better than it was in 2006. You know, we have
allegedly.
Well, I mean, now we have J. Cole, we have Kendrick, we have a much more variety.
You sound one of those people like Kendrick sold, J. Cole sold, J. Cole sold a million with no features. Told you
that. He went platinum, bro. He went platinum, no features.
Don't do that.
Okay, well, we also have Chance. We have Lecrae, even we have Jackie Hill Perry. We have.
But aren't you the same one who told me that J. Cole is really not that known? Like, I have a hard time believing such a statement, but you were so adamant that, the most known rappers right now, according to you, I didn't say this. Let's be very clear on this podcast. Like, if you have any slander that for this person who gets that J. Cole who sold platinum with no features, it's only for the writer. Not for me, for the writer. And she said the most popular rappers right now, the three, was it Drake, Big Sean, and Kendrick?
Yes, I did say that. I still stand by that statement. I don't think J. Cole is not well known in general. I think he's super well known. I just think Big Sean is more well known. And I realized, I think, because I remember I kept mentioning IDF with you. And it's kind of, oh man, I had a good comparison for it. I forgot what it is now. It's kind of like the Millie for Lil Wayne, which I can't believe I just made a Lil Wayne reference. Or the, there was another song, where it kind of broke this, if you go to a party, you're definitely hearing IDF with you, you know? I don't think J. Cole has one of those songs yet, which makes me think that he's not as popular with a mainstream audience. Not just hip-hop heads, but, everyone. If I go to the average person and be like, do you know who this person is? Do you know who this person is? I think most likely you're going to know Big Sean over J. Cole.
I still feel weird to hear that sentence. And this is going for a person who doesn't like any of them that much.
But yeah, so either way, back to hip-hop instead.
Right.
I don't know if he knew this was going to happen. I think he hoped it was going to happen, but I remember having this very, is it glum feeling? Gloomy feeling at that time, because, thinking, yeah, hip-hop is dead. This, just sucks now. Everything is just awful. This is around the same time I was getting into, old school hip-hop. I was listening to a lot of, Tupac, a lot of Eric B. and Rakim, etc. So I was kind of feeling the same way. I know myself, I didn't see, it changing. I just thought, this is the path it's going to go down. So I don't know if Nas saw it. Obviously, he had a lot more experience in hip hop since then, and saw a lot of the changes it went through since then. So maybe he kind of foresaw or saw that it could be a change. But I do think his statement was very intentional.
Yes,
saying this is what it is. This should change, or at least it was just a very profound statement.
Right. Do you think the album was good as its statement?
I think it's a good album, but knowing the other albums Nas has come out with, it's not his best. It's one of my favorites personally.
Right.
But that's mostly because of Hip Hop Is Dead, Can't Forget About You, and another song, Where Are They Now, was big for me. But again, this was it meant a lot to me. This is around the time I was getting into old school hip hop, so I was just kind of getting into Nas too, and to have him come out with a new album, it was oh, Nas' new album, you know? And yeah, I was obviously so where are they now? I was just hearing all these artists come back that I was just getting into. So it meant a lot to me personally. So I'm kind of biased about it, but I don't know. What was the question again?
Whether or not you think the album was good as its statement, yeah.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think I think Hip Hop Is Dead. The song is as good as the statement.
Okay.
And I don't think the entire album as a whole is no.
All right.
Yeah, but it was a cool album though.
So that leads well into our what question of the week.
What?
And so we're talking about intentions, we're talking about motivation. So the idea is like, what do you wish that you were more intentional about in your life?
Or what are you more intentional about in your life?
Right. And for me, one of the first things that comes to mind about being intentional is like I like to be intentional in relationships, but it reminded me of with my ex, I wanted to be so intentional that we had created a dating contract. Before I entered this relationship, there's like a lot of like, at least for me, because it was my first relationship, there was a lot of like, how we're going to do this, how we're going to be deliberate, how we don't want to take this for granted. Mm-hmm. And maybe a lot of that was more on my side in retrospect, mm-hmm. but I didn't want to take it lightly.
Right.
And I sat down. I remember I wrote this out, and we were both sitting down, and I was like, let's write this out of like stuff that we'll do when we're hanging out with each other just to make it meaningful. Mm-hmm. And we had one of her friends be there as a witness to the signing of the contract.
That's hilarious.
It was interesting. I don't know. I can't tell you what popped into my mind to create a dating contract. I wish I could think of a joke that led to this, but I don't. I don't know. But I was like, I wanted to be very
purposeful.
And that caused problems. But I've never done it again since, but it's stuff I've thought about. I was like, oh, maybe bring that idea back, but I don't know how I would, or just making me go back to ideas like I want to be intentional in whatever relationship I'm in. I don't want to be like, yeah, whatever.
Right.
So that's the main thing that comes to my mind. What about for you?
For me, so I'm a journalist. I remember what kind of brought me to this. A few years ago, I was in class, and our teacher brought in a woman who said that she never puts pictures of black children without shoes on every time she publishes. I think she was a photo editor, where she had to find a photo. So, I don't know, it was just something so small, but it made me realize just how much power we have in imagery and what images we put out there as journalists. So I kind of took that. And from other like things I've seen over time, just like criticism I've seen of like magazines or publications who will post like a bad picture of one artist looking angry and another one looking like pretty.
Right, like the Nicki Minaj Taylor Swift thing.
Right, exactly like that. Yeah. So you have like Taylor Swift looking like princess. I did nothing wrong. Nicki Minaj looking like angry. Like I'm gonna like beat her up, and it's just very like it means a lot. It says a lot. So I've kind of taken that, and when I have the chance to like be in charge of my images and what goes up and what, I try to make it a little bit more like bring integrity to it. I'll try and match my pictures. You know, if they're both looking the same, like they're both angry or they're both looking nice. Especially, or even like language with the Ocean's 11. The new Ocean's 8 it's called. The new Ocean's 11 with the women. And I really like the term female. So, and then I think about like, well, what do all of these women identify as women? You know, so should I put like they're all women cast, all female cast? Just things I like try to think about and be purposeful about to be respectful to everyone.
What did you decide, if you decided yet?
I did both. In the headline, I put all female, and then in the article I put all women. Because I don't know if they all identify as women, but I know I'm pretty sure they're all female. But then I have an issue with the word female as well, because I feel like it can be dismissive. Even though we are females, it's kind of like...
There's a kind of weird cultural thing now where it kind of becomes dismissive, although that's not the intent.
It's weird. It's weird.
Twitter culture is weird.
Yes, it is. So, yeah, I just ended up going with both. But, yeah, things like that I just try and be intentional with. I try not to just write things. Even, like, if I'm talking about slavery with African Americans, I'll put, like, human beings that were enslaved rather than slaves, because I feel like we kind of, once you say slaves, people think it's like some like extra outside of the box thing, like, oh, slaves, like that's something different. It's like, no, these were human beings who were enslaved. Things like that. I try and switch up thing. So yeah, that's it. That's my little contribution to the world for the moment.
She'll have way more contributions very soon.
Hopefully, maybe. We'll see.
But this is a special week.
Yes,
we kept y'all waiting for a long time. Yes. So we first want to apologize. Mm-hmm. But we got actual answers to a previous question that we had. So just to throw it out there, we actually threw this question out on the Extraordinary Journey of a Black Nerd group on Facebook. So if you ever look out for Sailor Scout Johnson, who'll be the one posting the questions in the future there, you'll see Victoria Johnson, as she puts it.
Right.
You'll be able to get your answer read, and we'll try to make sure that it's on Twitter and Facebook as well in general.
Yeah, share it everywhere, or say
Instagram.
It on
you can put it on Instagram Stories.
Yeah, Instagram Stories. It's a new thing we're gonna do. So if you want to follow the Wolves Den 25 or me at Miss Old School, you can answer our questions, and we'll try and get to read it on a thing.
So the last time we asked, what was the most satisfying episode of anime you watched, or the satisfying anime you've watched, which is not necessarily your favorite. Mm-hmm. And we're not going to say people's first names. We're going to just say their last names, just in case they don't want their full names being said.
I would say we go with first names.
Go with first names instead? Okay.
Last, yeah.
So David mentioned that the first thing that he popped in his head was the Pain Saga Naruto and the Puppet Master fight. When the old lady Puppet Master used Sakura as her puppet. That was insane.
Did you see that, or have you seen that?
I'd never touched Shippuden, so.
Okay, me neither, so. But cool. Thank you, David.
And then Ovo talks about the episode where Naruto finally got to talk to his pops. I need to watch that. As much as I've done with Naruto, that's given how much foreshadowing of Yodaime after all these years, that sounds like a great episode. There's Trina, who talked about Samurai 7, which I've known about. I think it's still on. I don't think it's on Netflix or Hulu anymore. It was on Hulu, but Hulu hates anime now, so.
Apparently so.
You want to go?
So Ed and Hi actually both put Death Note, which is pretty cool. They didn't put I guess that was the most satisfying anime. Right. I could definitely agree with that. I think it was probably one of the most satisfying animes I've seen as well.
Yeah, although most people, I'm surprised none of them said it. Most people who talk about Death Note will be like, oh, just the first half. I don't want to
exactly. I was going to say that disclaimer too.
Don't listen to her.
M and N come.
Those guys are amazing. I don't know why everyone hates them so much.
Cool characters. I think the show ends better.
Oh, speaking of it, Tristan says the exact same thing.
Yeah, see, there you go. Most spies. Well, yeah. Spoiler.
No, we won't spoil this one. This Death Note is specifically one, but most anime you can get by without spoilers. I think Death Note specifically doesn't deserve spoilers.
Okay. Wow, that says a lot coming from you. Okay.
Yeah.
So we won't spoil it.
No. Is that a One Piece reference that Daniel's making? Straw Hat Pirates versus Fisherman Cruelty?
It is. I'm wondering if... So I did just pass, part of the Fishman story. I'm not sure if it's the same one, though, because they were heading to the Fishman Island when I watch it, but they haven't got there yet because the cruise has been separated and all this other crazy stuff.
Okay.
But there is this part that I just watched where basically... It's weird. It's so... In this island they put people on auctions, and mermaids and fishermen, or mermaids specifically, are very high commodities because they're hard to catch and people want them to put them in their room or whatever, or in their fish tank as a prop. So, but mermaids are discriminated against on this island. So it's really interesting. You kind of idolize this thing and want it as it's something precious, but it's also something you hate. It is a cool juxtaposition, but so yeah, I don't know if that's what he's talking about, but they do kind of explain it afterwards, because when there's two fishermen, a mermaid and a fisherman guy, who takes them into this island, but they have to cover themselves to show that they're not anything that shows them as they're fishermen or fish people. So, but Luffy more or less defends one of them once they get revealed to be a fishman.
Okay.
And he, this is super spoiler, but not really. I guess if you watch the show by then, you kind of can guess it's going to happen. There's these royal people called, I forgot what they're called. But they basically, like Superboy, they're not supposed to be touched, or else the Marines would come after you because they are the descendants of the people who founded the Marines in the Navy. So, but one of them shoots the fisherman because it's like, oh my god, this thing is disgusting. And Luffy gets pissed because that's his friend, and he goes and he punches him. Which is like, wow, you can't do that. Like, you know, like, these guys, like, kill people and, like, everyone turns a blind eye because they're so afraid. So that was definitely satisfying for me. So I'm wondering if that's what he's talking about. But anyway, it could be. Anyway.
So if you have, like, some stories that you want to share about you being intentional or being heavy motivated, or even some, like, anime or hip-hop ways of looking at that, share that with us.
Yep.
So if you want to ask us any questions, please send us tweets using hashtag nerdsonhiphop or hashtag NOHH, or email us at nerdsonhiphop@gmail.com. Take it away.
Thanks for listening to Nerds on Hip Hop. Once again, I'm Victoria, a.k.a. Sierra Scout, a.k.a. Miss Old School. If you want to message me on social media as well to answer our questions, you can get me at Miss Old School, Old School with a K. And
I'm The Wolves Den 25 everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, not YouTube. YouTube, I think, is just The Wolves Den. I think I actually was able to pull that off.
Nice. Are you the 25th Wolves Den? Or
I'm probably just the 25th Wolves Den. Either way, catch you later.
Sayonara, son.
On the next episode of Nerds on Hip Hop is Miguel Simmons. He's a professor, he's a journalist, he's a Trinidadian living in the United States but obsessed with Wakanda. We're going to be covering the Black Panther trade, and trust me, you want to catch up on it because there'll be major spoilers. Catch you next episode. Deuces.